I
What's up? I'm gonna turn this down a little bit. Actually, let's turn this up. And I have not streamed in a hot minute. What's up, everybody? Dude, let's hang out, talk some college esports. Let me know if there's any problems with anything. Like I said, I have not streamed on this internet before. I have not streamed in a long time. How's everybody doing? Who's in chat? We see Parker from Aquinas College, Overwatch player. Say K-Bot from Ohio State. What's up? Who else is in chat? What are we talking about today? HyperX Cloud 2 headset. Yeah, Stevenator. This has been my favorite headset so far. Oh, man. I do not need this up. Oh, holy cow. It has been a spicy 48 hours in Collegiate and Scholastic Esports. Am I right? Let's talk some stuff. Let's talk some stuff. Oh, what up, Prof. Palm? We got some Aquinas players in chat. Had a busy 2 days of sending emails and figuring out what in the world is going on around here. Just some big news today that's interesting on our side internally. Dude, that's awesome. Excited to hear. In addition to all the stuff that's been happening. Twitter. Yeah. Dude, that's awesome. Did you see Michigan Esports was included on that Immortals announcement? Immortals moving their headquarters to Detroit, plus some spoke cities in the Midwest. I assume Columbus will be one of those cities. Hey, Bayoush, what's up? 5 in the corner with Bayoush and chilling. Nice. Trying to get you up on the esports lab, but Roku doesn't have Twitch. Oh, boo. Boo. It's okay. Yeah, we had a Roku. Yeah. Roku doesn't have a Twitch app. I used to have to go like through the, was it the Sony Internet Explorer of the TV just to get to Twitch? It did not work. Did you all see the COD accounts tweeting? Yeah, I did. Yeah, that was awesome. COD Twitter, Collegiate COD Twitter came together. What's up? Yeah, super happy for them. They did mention Columbus, and that's one of the emails I just sent. Awesome. I heard Aquinas' director has a meeting with Immortals on Friday, so it sounds like they're very much open to talking with some of the collegiate programs in the Midwest, which is awesome. So I guess to kind of kick off the conversation, yeah, Collegiate COD was awesome. Big fan now of Collegiate COD Twitter. Kick off the conversation here a little bit. I think what's important for me, in my opinion, on the Twitterverse and this quote unquote spiciness of esports Twitter, collegiate Twitter, and also like the general conversation on Twitter. In my opinion, it's really valuable. We can't be afraid of conflict because in conflict, opinions are shared, various perspectives are shared, and in turn, everyone is kind of educated. So thank you for the follows, guys. I appreciate it. OW drama was blech. OW drama is interesting. We can talk about OW drama. Actually, let's talk about that one first, because I did list that first in my thing. But through those conversations on Twitter, a couple things. People get to share their opinions. People get better informed, in my opinion. But also expectations are communicated. I think there are a lot of new coaches and directors in the space. Period. There's a ton of new directors and coaches. But also, if those decisions of some of those teams is not called out on Twitter and that discussion is not had, those new coaches and directors might feel that that's the norm and that's the expectation. Um, and that is what I don't want. That's what I don't want to see in Collegiate, and I hope nobody else does either. Um, but I hate seeing people put stuff like Collegiate Esports Twitter is embarrassing. I can't believe I got online to see you guys are embarrassing yourselves. Or if I was in Collegiate Esports, I would shut my mouth. And that's kind of directly related to a tweet from a past director who I highly respect. I just feel like that doesn't inspire growth. I mean, if we want to all be on our own silos more than we already are, that doesn't promote sharing ideas. And sure, that in other instances, in other industries, there are probably better ways to share ideas. There's yearly conferences, there's conference calls, yada yada yada. But for our industry, I find that to be the most effective. Um, I will be having some. Hopefully, if this goes well, I'll be doing this weekly. I haven't set a specific time and day going forward. I like the 4 to 6 range because it's before practices, but I want to do it once a week. And my first guest, hopefully, if it works out next week, will be David Kirk from Illinois State. He did reach out to me, so that is interesting. And we had like a little short back and forth, but he brought up the idea of hopping on to this. He couldn't do it today, but I'm hoping he can do it next week. Yeah, exactly, Command Attack. People are afraid of discussion. There are always going to be trolls who pop in and say something inappropriate. There's going to be immature players who might say something inappropriate. But for the most part, when we're looking at the discussion and the tweets going back and forth between directors and coaches, I find it really, I find it constructive for the most part. No way you're going to interview. Yes, I am going to interview the ISU coach, director. David's the director of Illinois State. But let's talk about ISU. Let's talk about Overwatch. So yesterday, for those of you who are not aware, I know you all probably know, but last regular season match of the season, ISU Academy was actually competing in NACE. Northwood has their varsity team competing in NACE. Last match of the season, ISU decided they wanted to add their entire varsity team to their roster and compete with that varsity team against Northwood. They made that decision 7 hours before the match, and they did not communicate that to Northwood. So in the opinion of Northwood, some of the Northwood players, coaches, directors, as well as in my own opinion, it seemed pretty not the right way to do it. The argument from Illinois State was we wanted to inspire better competition, have a better close match. They say all their players were in agreement, both their academy team and their varsity team. I'm not opposed to good competition. I'm not opposed to making a decision that's within the rules, which it is. Where I have problems with is the lack of communication and a clear blind side, in my opinion. Florida man. Hey, what's up, Adrian College? Yo. Disagreements are seen as you're wrong, stupid, and a shit person instead of I think you could be doing this better. Yeah, that's fair. I think there are definitely people out there who don't know how to have a civil argument, and maybe that comes out on Twitter. Eating dinner will pop back in with thoughts. Good. I'm looking forward to it. What up, Verso? Mega Blaziken. I'm guessing NACE is going to reevaluate. Yes. So, you don't see any cats yet. They're locked out because sometimes I like to jump in my lap. Maybe a different week I'll have them hanging out up there. Yes. So the NACE Competition Council meets every Tuesday. We met this afternoon, and this was a discussion on the docket. We felt that there was another interesting addition to the ISU situation is that they were already eliminated from playoff contention. Basically, what they did is screwed over Northwood in their seeding for playoffs. So they had no way of making playoffs even if they won that match. but it was our opinion that the current rule set allows roster additions throughout the season. The only stipulation is there's a roster lock right before playoffs, and players need to play 2 matches in the regular season in order to play in playoffs. And a lot of that, so there's 2 reasons the rules are written that way. One is registration ended in the early part of the fall before some teams had school started or had the ability to have tryouts yet. So we need an ability for teams to add players to the roster after said tryouts or whenever their school started. The second part of that is to try to lower the amount of forfeits in the league. And I mean that by saying if a team finds out within 24, 48 hours that one of their players couldn't make it and the team had to pivot and add another player to the roster, we allow that to happen. Nowhere in the spirit of the rules was the idea that a team should be able to come in and add 6 new players. And that just was not the spirit of the rule. So the CC, the Competition Council, talked through it. We had CSL, a representative from CSL on the call. We have our competition manager, JJ, on the call. And basically, we're looking at a new platform to use for next spring. We're getting off mainline. That's been communicated. The specific platform I don't know has been communicated yet. But I've tasked JJ, our competition manager, who works at NACE full time. He's got 2.5 weeks to find out the capabilities of that platform that we're going to, that will allow or not allow roster additions. And we'll formulate our rule set, we'll close that loophole based on what technology is available to us on the new platform. So if that new platform allows the stopping of roster additions or allows the ability to an admin having to approve a addition, we'll use that knowledge to formulate our rule set going forward when it comes to roster additions. General question of how people talk to each other on Twitter. Twitter ranks is not the worst in people. Yes, true. Everyone needs to be right. Yeah. Y'all are talking about Twitter, the flex of the 64 in the background. Which 64 is in the background? Oh yeah, my Nintendo 64. I actually have let's see. I don't have the Xbox One here, but I'll show you. I've got the PlayStation 2, the Xbox 360, and then the Xbox One is currently is at my parents' house. I think my brother has it, but I've got an A10 Call of Duty edition thing that I won. SVG, what up? SVG 500. How's it going? Cats on Lap, our stream, our requirement. I like UPL's rule that each week there is a roster lock you can change during the season. That was a discussion that I think it was short in the NACE Competition Council that we like, although the problem is the platform we're looking at might not have the ability to set our specific roster lock every week. Because right now the platform we're looking at allows coaches to add players to their roster without the need for an admin to do anything. Which has been our goal for NACE competition, is like, let's put all the power into the coach's hands to handle roster stuff, in terms of registration, lineups, etc. There might be, and the other, we think that there's an option to turn off roster additions manually, and there's a thought process of turning it off weekly, but we don't know if that option is for all competitions on the that we'd be hosting, or if it's by specific tournament. So like I said, JJ's going to do some information seeking on that. That's pretty rad, my guy. I think SGG has the functionality for teams. What is SGG? SGG. Feel like Collegiate Esports Twitter recently is just farming engagements. All right, Verso, are you adding me right here in my own chat? Are you adding me right here in my own chat? Because it might be a little bit of that. Not necessarily farming, but in my opinion, these conversations need to happen. So, yeah, I've found it enjoyable to watch the analytics of my Twitter and my program's Twitter kind of over the course of the last couple months, because it's kind of gotten crazy. But in my opinion, these conversations need to happen. Of course, Noah has it. Yeah. JVG. What is JVG? I feel like I have a pretty good tap on what the heck is going on in collegiate esports, but I always learn of a new platform. Um, I post useful stuff. Hey, I appreciate that, Verso. I think the NACE hate tweets are pretty meta. I think that's engagement farming, in my opinion. Why not pay a developer to design a platform instead of using a third party? The function needs to very simple, aren't very complex. This is exactly a point that I've brought up and for some reason has never been explored. So anything money or monetary related, which would be required in this situation, the board of directors would need to approve. So the competition council basically offers a suggestion, and then the board of directors, which is 10 elected members of NACE, or directors at NACE member institutions would are on the board, they would have to approve that. And so far, the last 2 years, NACE has chosen platforms based on a business decision. Challenger mode was free. It did not work well. It was not a good decision. Mainline was a part of this NACE Starleague partnership and thus earned the business. Um, it's been my belief, and we, as a competition council, recommended a different platform back in April before NACE Starleague was formed, but that obviously changed. And we were promised a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was excited about Mainline back in summer. Those promises were not fulfilled, and here we are looking for another platform. So. Um, Google Sheets, dude. How many times have I heard Google Sheets? So Google Sheets are really good. I really like how Upsurge uses Google Sheets. The opinion I have is that NACE members are paying a significant amount of money, and most of their value from a personal stance is in NACE competition. And I think what NACE needs to be doing and needs to aim for is something better than Google Sheets. But I think it's a great alternative. Uh, Maybe use play versus. Why do people dislike play versus? Shoot, you guys are already hopping to my next thing. All right. So we talked about Illinois State a little bit there. I don't think there's much else I want to talk about there. We're talking about NACE. Anything else on NACE before? We'll hop back to NACE competition because I know there's a lot going on. Is there a reason why Smash GG can't expand into League? Smash.gg is... I don't really know what their development looks like or what their long-term goals are. I've had a pretty decent experience using it. What we were finding is that most platforms, like 99% of the platforms on the market, are created for semi-pro leagues or intramurals on a college campus or like club teams. None of them are created for varsity. And by what I mean by that, one of the main functionalities is most of them do not have a coach role. And most of them do not allow a coach to just register a team. On all the platforms so far, each individual player has had to sign up an account. And that process goes back and forth. It's the coach makes the team, coach invites the players. The players have to get online, make their account, accept it, and then sometimes a coach has to then add them to the roster on the site, and then sometimes and then like on mainline, the players had to get on again to accept like the registration form or something. It's really not conducive. So there's just not a solution in the space that works great. I can just use play versus command attack. This guy out here trolling, or at least even skin the Google Sheet and make it look better. Yeah, you could skin the Google Sheet. +1 on play versus. I feel like a lot of us are here from Twitter. Yeah. All right, let's talk about play versus. There's a couple more messages. As long as it delivers functionality, nobody would be upset. A work product, the worst part of every platform. Yeah. Play versus optimizers. That was absorbed by MSFT and has coaches. Was absorbed by Microsoft and has coaches teams last few months. Smash.gg might not be getting as much love as it should. I have to look into it again. But historically, it's only been glorified and used for Super Smash Brothers or the fighting game community, and might not be getting the love it needs. Same criticism for CeeLo as Battlefy. True. Yep. I haven't had a terrible experience with CeeLo and Battlefy. I think it's definitely okay. For what it's worth, NECC does a great job with Google Sheets. I'm sure they do. Like I said, I love Upsurge and how they have everything in one thing. You're hot. Flex times 2. Fletch times 2. Fletch, you got 2 Twitch accounts? Dang. Okay. All right, let's talk about play versus. All right. Who wants to start the discussion? Let's talk. So what the reason for a lot of the stuff that's been going on the last 24, 48 hours is play versus, specifically the CEO, Delane, wrote a letter basically saying we had a lot of forfeits this year. And basically, you can find the letter on, or you can find the blog post on their website. Basically said that it's on the coaches, and the coaches need to either take it more seriously and not forfeit, show up to matches, or remove their team from competition so that other teams aren't affected by their lack of whatever. This is on top of the fact that play versus is pay to play in a lot of instances. Recently, the last couple of years, play versus has been giving new schools like a full years of a full membership for $1 for the entire year. That might be a little background that most people don't know. That specific instance of only being $1 a year will drive up forfeits versus a team having to pay $64 per player per season. If a school's paying that much money, or if a student's paying that much money, you're probably not going to forfeit or no-show many matches. But that's the problem. And the reason Play Versus has so much power in the space is because they own the exclusivity of a couple different games, specifically League of Legends. And they won't allow anyone to, at the high school level specifically, to run League of Legends competition that's not within the community guidelines of Riot, which is basically you have 16 teams in a 2-week tournament. Anything beyond that in terms of length or size, you have to get approved by Riot, and it's not going to get approved. What I've seen personally from my perspective is a lot less high school players playing League of Legends. I can attribute that to some of that to the fact that there are high schools out there not supporting League of Legends anymore because they're involved in their state orgs, and the state orgs can't do League of Legends. Another part of that could be argued that it's an old game. High school kids are too busy playing Roblox or whatever they're playing these days, Fortnite, a little bit, Valorant, etc. But there is a chunk of players that can't do that or aren't doing that because of that. Dropped frames detected. Whatever. If it's bad, let me know. Collegiate Play Versus is free. Yes, they did host Fortnite for free. I don't know if they've done it. They did do Rocket League as well for free. They've kind of stepped back from Collegiate, and I don't know why specifically. I feel like, in my opinion, there's more money in Collegiate in terms of like charging programs, but getting that exclusive contract might be a lot more difficult. Heard it was 78. According to their website, it's still 64 per player per season. There might be like a full year pass for 78, maybe. Last year, because NACE didn't do Spring RL. That is correct. Yeah. We hosted a summer camp for 80 10 to 14-year-olds, and we didn't have a single league player. Yeah, dude, in my recruiting, I have found so many Rocket League players, but Overwatch and League of Legends are so much more difficult. Florida Southern Roblox 2022. Oh, God. Please no. I was just having this conversation. There's like 40 million, daily users of Roblox, and half of them are under the age of 13. Is the data out there? It's actually crazy, insane. Dude jumped right into dragging. Sorry. Issue is Play versus attempting to treat symptoms. Yes, that is exactly it. So what they're doing is they're mass onboarding so many schools as fast as possible, but they're not ensuring that those schools have the proper structure and support. I think investors are looking to focus on high school and not collegiate. That's fair. You'll donate whatever it takes to get varsity Roblox. Okay, well let me come up with a number. I'll send it to you. Andrew Franklin, thank you for the follow. All my league players are female too, a demographic. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so West Catholic High School in Grand Rapids, all their league players are female. I think we all need to schedule a visit over there to start recruiting. Because we all need more female players. Like, for me, they're just so difficult to find. Like, I look at my recruit database and it's like all males, and I'm like, where are they? Like, where are they hiding? So I heard PlayVS is the topic now. Yes, it is the topic. We're talking. Will be household. You think Rocket League will be a household name? I think it's great. It's a great game. I got the quote of the day. It's per player, per game, per season. Decreasing the people in the age group playing League from the start. There a decrease in people in the age group? Good question. I don't know. They don't really share. I think it's, yeah, Perfect Storm Free Sup. What up, Nate Show? Yeah, so PlayVS. That's what the situation is. And what they did to try to solve those forfeits in Mississippi was try to start fining high school teams who forfeited $100 per match, which, to my understanding, is the standard they use on all their traditional sports in Mississippi, because it's a partnership with PlayVS and the traditional athletic body of Mississippi for high schools. They tried to impose that same fine structure on their high schools when most of these programs are volunteer ran. They are no resources. Most of them probably don't have a lab on campus. If they're paying PlayVS, it's most likely coming from the players, not the school. Just saying. PlayVS will say, oh, we try, like, our goal, or what we tell schools is schools should be paying. Well, that's just not the reality of what's happening. Like, schools, a coach who's volunteering their time is not going to go try to beg for thousands of dollars for their program, instead of trying to build a lab or trying to get themselves a stipend for all the work they're putting in. And that's just the reality. So you see players are playing that fee, and now you're charging those teams fees for missing a match for whatever reason. And there are going to be valid excuses. High school players, especially in my experience from esports, they're super involved. Like, half of my players at West Catholic were in band, and they had practices all the time. So since, I think, pretty quickly after that announcement of Mississippi, like, they pulled back and said they're not doing that anymore. I don't know if that's for sure, but and somebody else had chimed in on Twitter saying that multiple states were doing this. I don't know what the other state was, but what's interesting is that, like, on the traditional athletic side, that fine would probably go to pay for referee or other expenses incurred by the host school, or by the state organization if they have anything to do with it. But in esports, there's no expenses in this type of stuff. So, like, what's the point? You're only just trying to prevent forfeits. Just like, I don't even know how to pronounce your name. Fisak? Is it Fisak? It's the last name. I don't know. He's an amazing alumni from Florida Southern. Like you mentioned, they're treating the symptom, not the root cause. Imagine levying taxes for the $100. What is it? Something that was forced by? The thought process is it wasn't forced by PlayVS, but PlayVS definitely did not say no to it. Mississippi, the acting athletic body, I'm assuming, was the ones who enforced that idea, and PlayVS just kind of let it happen. Oh, it's Jack Gagan. That's who's in chat. Nice. What's up? Yeah. All right. So, SSCYC, I understand why PlayVS gets hate given some of their public Whoa, I missed a lot. Okay, I stopped scrolling. My bad. I didn't miss it. There's more here. I don't understand why there isn't more focus on the developers who are entering in these arrangements and other restriction developers put on public. Yes. Yeah. So there is a lot of hate towards PlayVS, and probably uh, there should be more directed toward Riot in that conversation. But we don't really know who is calling the shots on Riot's side. Is kind of the big question, because we can't really just call out Riot because it's just a massive organization. No one's going to see that. FISAC. Okay. Yeah, we don't know who's calling the shots. Like, it could be Tiza, who is head of Collegiate at East. I think he might be head of Scholastic, one of the people at Riot. But his hands might be tied because we don't know if PlayVS walked into Riot and said, hey, we'll give you X million dollars to have exclusivity, which they probably did. There's probably a cost to that. But that would be something that would be directed lower to the people that we actually know. I think Riot is digging themselves a grave. Like, they should be doing anything possible to get high schoolers playing their game. It helps the entire ecosystem. It helps the high school scene get bigger and more developed. It helps colleges have more talent to recruit and get has more students to get scholarship money. And then the pro scene, like, all the way up. Like, you're not helping yourself by gatekeeping the amount of players. Developers have armies of lawyers and biz dev folks that review all this stuff. They understand the impact and what the consequences are. Yes, to an extent. I also have realized that, like, not only do college coaches and directors not know what the heck they're doing, the people who are head of Scholastic Esports for their game devs know even less. Especially, specifically when we talk about, like, the day-to-day of what it takes to be a college coach, what we're up against, what our goals are. Like, most of these people in Scholastic Esports at these developers have never been in a position like mine. Like, at the the most that they've had has been, like, founding an esports org at a school, but most of them don't even have that. So I think there's also just, like, a lack of knowledge on the developer side too. And I don't know if they see how the value, like, I don't know if they know the full equation and the value that can come from this type of stuff. What up, Moog? Adam, take that stance and talk about scalability outside of PlayVS specifically. What other options are there? Take that stance and talk about scalability. In what regard? Talk about... Dude, I've had a long day, so my brain is not working. So this is not on you. But yeah, expand on that a little bit. What are you talking about there? State schools are state leagues are big. They were pitched a turnkey solution. That was not turnkey. Yeah, so here's the deal. So Riot, in every step when it comes to esports, what they've done is they have wanted the best possible product that looks the best for their company. They went out and started their own production, their own esports arm, so that they could own their professional scene. Collegiate, they started their own collegiate thing. High school, they were offered, PlayVS said, hey, look at our partnership with the National Federation of High School or High School Sports or whatever it is, NFHS. We will do everything for you. We've got it in a neat package. We have $100 million in venture capital money. We've got this entire staff. We will take care of it, and it'll look great. That hasn't worked out, in my opinion. But from the very start, Riot has only cared about their product and making sure that their IP is not associated with low-quality experience for their gamers. And that goes for most of the organizations. I think most developers have started to kind of loosen the reins on that a little bit because they realize the negatives on giving it only to one organization or not allowing more things. But I don't know. What I also bring up a lot, and what's really interesting, is that at every level above collegiate, developers, and from the start, like, esports has been a marketing expense for developers until recently. And with PlayVS, esports went from a marketing expense to a revenue generation opportunity, which is a total 360 on what esports has done for you historically from the beginning, and what value it's brought. It's in the past has brought additional players, has brought through those players has brought in more players and in-game currency, and it was treated as a marketing expense. You look at Fortnite World Cup, that was a marketing expense from Epic. But now it's becoming a revenue generation opportunity. And that I think is truly, I think that's a problem, especially when we're talking about the high school scene and the college scene, where most of these gamers are first developing. It's still a marketing expense for most devs. They haven't figured out sustainability. Yeah, esports is still a marketing expense. And we look at like CLOL, that's a marketing expense. I mean, they're not bringing in money for that type of stuff. But you look at the high school scene, they're bringing in money from the PlayVS deal. One can only imagine that they are. So it has become not a marketing expense, but a revenue generator. Is the complaint generally about the quality of PlayVS software, schools paying for player entries, the CEO, or what in particular? That's a good question. If PlayVS didn't have exclusivity, there wouldn't be this level of conversation. Most schools would go find a different option, but there isn't. Like, they can't have another option. Like, the only people who can run League of Legends tournaments outside of above 16 schools is PlayVS. That's where most of the rub comes from. If the exclusivity wasn't here, like, we would just be like, oh, they're just another option for high schools if they want whatever, but it's not the only option, and that's the problem. What adds on top of that is that there's a cost that usually gets pushed onto players, and the CEO Delane, although I've never met him or talked to him, unfortunately, he's put his personal brand has not been beneficial for the position he's in when it comes to Scholastic Esports and trying to improve the space. It's been a lot of tweets about like new cars and money and etc. And it's just not. It seemed a little out of touch for the place where he's at, and that all just kind of adds up. Why would you limit your game to one org? Good question, Nate. I think the same thing goes to Riot has always wanted to protect their product and their brand. They want to own the esport. They want to make sure that it provides the best experience possible. Where they fall, I think just PlayVS has fallen short of that promise, and Riot just has not exited that deal. And I don't know why. Whether it's they don't have the resources to support it internally at Riot, PlayVS might be from their perspective the only option. I just don't know what that looks like. There are a lot of state leagues to go. Yeah, there are. What you're talking about is huge. Imagine if instead Riot started funding the local high school orgs. So yes, from our perspective, being involved in the local state orgs, we know how awesome it is. We know these educators are doing great. From an outsider's perspective, I think that question is still out there. Are they doing it the right way? Because marketing for most of the state orgs has been lackluster at best. And that might be part of the problem. Communication with developers has not been the greatest either. Some of the people who run these state orgs are pretty opinionated. I'll call out Nate right out of the gate, like super opinionated. Ain't here to mess around. He's got a lot of stuff to do. Most of these coaches, you look at James O'Hagan, you look at Ted Kidd up in Michigan, like all those people are super opinionated. They know what they want, and they're not necessarily trying to rub elbows with the developers. They just want it. So that I don't think helps the state orgs win over the developers or their favor. But obviously, I don't think that's an excuse. I think there's a little bit of, from the developers side, I don't think they're really looking at the space as closely as they should be. I'm hoping RSAA and the people on that will help change that. And the 3 people they selected this year, I think, are good. And hopefully it will change the conversation a little bit. But that remains to be seen, I think. This is Son of Pain. Son of Pain devs only go. What was that response to? Devs only go with exclusivity when an org is willing to pay them a ton of money. No, that is not true. I think it might be the truth. It's possible it's truth with this specific instance, but there are devs who send out RFPs to multiple tournament operators. I know NACE is a part of some of those conversations where like a dev will say, all right, tournament operators, we want to give exclusivity for the next semester to one org. This is the thing you need to sit, like these are the things you need to deliver on. Here's the money we're giving you, or you have to supply all the money. Submit your response to this request for proposal, and then we'll decide. So there are instances where devs are actually paying some of these tournament organizers to have exclusivity, but every dev is operating differently. Um, so yeah, it's not a blanket statement with that. With Riot giving exclusivity of Lolda, do you think they might follow suit with Valorant? So what's interesting with Valorant is a completely different team within Riot, and they're operating completely separate. So the esports team at Valorant has no interaction with the esports team of League of Legends. Well, they might have interaction, but they're not making the same decisions. So I think what Riot will do is hold off at least next semester with Valorant, and then probably do something. I bet there's a conversation about putting it under the same Scholastic team that runs League of Legends, but like I said, it's different people, so it could change. Some companies explicitly do not want other orders to be running things under their name and won't hesitate to see and die. Yes. Cease and desist. Just wanted to offer LoL as a title to our schools. I know, me too. Like we need more high schoolers playing LoL. Period. Um, and right now it's not the easiest. Someone running a league, it's literally true. Well, Son of Paint might have some more information there. But yeah, I think there are devs that are just looking for the highest dollar person paying, and then there are devs who operate a little differently. Marketing of high school orgs lacks because of lack of funding. Oh, absolutely, 100%. No one has time to market their state org right now. They have barely enough time to run 10 teams like they are. It's kind of the thing. There's question of passion TOs versus professional capitalism TOs with the purpose of making money. Oh, absolutely. There are TOs with different goals and different things. Different team for Val, yeah. I say this is someone who drove around a lot to produce esports streams. Val will probably lock it down soon, though. Same thing as Overwatch did. Year totally open, then launched OWL. It's a possibility. It's a possibility, but you also have to see like I said, Valorant esports people completely different. They have a different set of experiences and opinions. Who knows? But if historically we look at Riot in general, they like to own as much as possible. So, but if you look at CS:GO, which is the title they seem to try to be taking over, CS:GO is totally different. So do you like line up with CS:GO's type of model because of that? I don't know. I don't believe the state orgs are operating in that they have valuable business asset. Yeah. Where are the partnerships with businesses? Dude, state orgs are they have so much on their plates. Like these state orgs are consisted of like a board of directors or a group of leaders who are also coaches at local high schools, who are also mostly volunteer, running 5 teams. Like these state orgs do not have time to do a lot of this stuff. Hey, what's up, Chris? Chris is in chat. MySF guys are working their asses. Yeah, absolutely. I can't market Indiana because I'm running. Yeah. CSGO is like 1,000 years old. It is, but it's still doing really well. I just joined. Hey, no problem. Welcome. We're just chilling. We're talking play versus right now and devs and exclusivity, etc. Good conversation. If anyone has anything. Coach Wiki, Chris Bilski's in the house too. We got all the Chris's. Holy cow. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in college esports all the time. Devs are always looking for the next thing. Nate Show, we don't get a seat at the table with any of these businesses. On top of that, there's a lot of people. What esports is there are a lot of people out there. Yeah, I mean, high school programs have the same problems that college programs have when it comes to finding sponsorships and business partnerships, but they don't have full-time dedicated coaches and directors. Everyone has limited bandwidth. Are we utilizing student internships? That's a great question. I know Northwood was working with MySF up in Michigan to try to establish some internships, but I don't know if it actually happened. It was definitely talked about, but we got to get that follow through on student internships. That's a massive opportunity, especially for state high school orgs. Reaching out to colleges, another one, massive opportunity. Very few high school coaches feel the need or want to reach out to local high school coaches for help or for partnering. Like, you should, please do. Is that GVSU, Coach Bilski? Well, look, we've got a couple GV folks in chat. Grand Valley, congratulations to Chris Bilski on being named the new director there. Lots of exciting stuff happening. Just generally, what are your theories for why PlayVS does have these contracts if they do have this bad reputation? Clearly, school districts are partnering with them. They needed some. So, PlayVS is really good at making relationships with state orgs because they offer this turnkey solution, which like 2 years ago was like the key phrase in esports, or in everything. It's like, we'll offer this turnkey solution. We'll come in, we'll do it all. They're really good at making those partnerships, making those deals. And then when you look at Riot, first of all, you can't ignore the money, although everyone seems to think that's the only reason. It's not the only reason. Money's going to be a factor into it. But you see this organization who has partnerships with the NFHS organization, which oversees all of high school traditional sports. You see they have partnerships with various states. From Riot's perspective, they look like the big dogs who have the most respect and ability to reach as many kids as possible. So they do offer value when those are the numbers being shared. What's not being shared is the student experiences and how many players are actually playing in PlayVS versus how many schools do you have signed up to be in PlayVS. Totally different numbers. It's like Twitch viewership. Like, how many people tuned in for 1 second versus how many people actually watch the entire broadcast. Totally different numbers. They tell a totally different story. They just happen to be telling the story of how many people just happened to see the stream at one point, even if it was running on Twitch front page. If you're not given a seat, make one. That's easy to say. I mean, I think high schools and high school orgs could do a better job with internships. They could do a better job at selling what they do. But it's also like, how much time do they have? Yeah, it's not. Holy cow! Why does my chat keep stopping? I'm confused. How can you not create some form of event value partnership? I think, Command, you got to keep going back to the fact that these are volunteer coaches. They're usually full-time something. They're a full-time teacher during the day. They're a full-time whatever they are. And they're volunteering their time for the afternoon. It's the same argument that Clerky makes when he talks about, if you can't get full rides, go raise some money. Which, in theory, yes. But it's not as easy. Like, it also depends on, like, what is your alumni base? Has the alumni base of your college been actively engaged in the last 2 years? You can't just walk up to a 70-year-old person and ask for $50,000. Like, there has to be a relationship building there. And that takes time. But, I mean, like I said, it does have some good... There's some good advice there. It's just... It's a lot easier said than done. How do they get those? Oh, but just generally, how do they get and why aren't those students' experiences being told? How are they suppressed exactly? Folk were saying that we're fearful about talking about things. Why? Oh. Generally, how do they get these partnerships to start? I think it's that specific thing. It's having a relationship and then pitching an idea. And pitching being they were one of the first. HSCL's been around for a couple of years, but they were not well ran when PlayVS started. We competed at West Catholic in HSCL, and after a year I swore I would never play that again. Play HSCL again. So PlayVS walks in, they have $100 million. Of course they get a seat at the table to at least have a conversation, and then they share whatever they want. Hangry in chat? Oh, shoot. What up? Look at all these Grand Valley people in here. I coach a high school program while being a full-time college kid. Colleges are having a hard time getting alumni on board. in terms of funding. Absolutely. Absolutely. Most colleges started their programs to get more students on campus and in turn bring in more tuition dollars. And that was the only thought process or goal. Nothing was thought about past that. So it's hard to sell the next level, in my opinion. As far as building value, I see the value in state and programs, but at the same time, just one state pinging all these companies for their attention. It's true. But why can the existing platforms scale if they are better? Maybe a stupid question, but if they are better, why can't the existing, or are they just not better platforms? Well, PlayVS. Oh, that was in response to a question from Chris. I don't know what that is. I'll let that go. As long as the Scholastic Esports is focused on competition, the grassroots and local guys will be effed. It's that simple. That's interesting. Esports is not traditional sports. The more we go, the sport model. See, that argument I'm not a huge fan of like, hey, we're not traditional sports, so stop acting like it. I think that is a good argument in some perspective. But there are a lot of instances where we can learn a lot from traditional sports too. So I don't like the premise of just saying blanketly like we're not traditional sports, so we shouldn't do anything. But there are good things to take from it. Local competition, I think, is a huge opportunity that comes from traditional sports. Conferences, I think, bring a ton of value for colleges. That can be pulled as well. Next song. Oh crap. Can I even do these next songs anymore? Oh my gosh. I'll play it just for you, Chris. It's a relatively short one, I think. It's the Grand Valley State fight song. Am I gonna get DMC'd for this? DMCA'd for this, whatever it is. All right. Unbelievable. All right. Well, it's not a bad fight song, I will say. It's not bad. Half the pro esports orgs these days are basically just Enron esports with a pretty logo and a silver spoon. Oh, I no comment. I don't know if any of them are doing anything illegal, but they are definitely overvalued and sitting on loads of cash. I don't know, but I'm saying as eds, our role is to maximize student experience and value from our programs. The value is not how many wins you get. See, that's also a personal opinion. Well, not personal, but it differs by school as well. Like, yes, we're all in here for the student experience and to provide opportunities for students. But further, we have different goals, and our institutions have different goals. There are institutions out there that want to win national championships. Maryville, Harrisburg, they're not giving full rides to end middle of the pack. So there are different goals there. So I don't know. It's an interesting one. This is a banger. Yeah. How's that talent acquired by students, and is the talent blah blah blah? If you build a different direction, you no longer need PlayVS or LF or anything else. You no longer need these predatory athletic orgs or leagues. Interesting. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, yeah. When I look at the traditional sports conference that Aquinas was in, we got them to adopt esports, and they're not sponsored by NACE. They're not under any other org. Like, they have a full season now just with those schools, and they didn't seek anything. And I think they got approval to be a partner conference from CLOL. They work within the community guidelines of all their games. Like, you don't need another organization, and they're not charging for that. There's not anything. It's definitely an option. It's really exciting to see. Equestrian in Michigan has rejected advances several times if you want to go that route. Interesting. Winning is good, but it's not the number one. See, that's fine with me. Like, there are programs out there who think that every program should have their chief goal be wins or to win everything. That's just not the reality for most schools. That's not the reality for most programs. There are going to be programs out there that want that, but it's not going to be every one. And I think that's fine to an extent. But when we talk about esports, those opportunities, I mean, the goal is competitive gaming. Like that's it. So I think there needs to be a focus on competition. What that focus is different. Did I miss the ISU? You did. There wasn't much spice to be had there. I might have. I gotta clear it with David. But David Kirk and I had like a really short back and forth. But I'm probably gonna have him on this little shindig talk show next week. So that'll be spicy. I guess my question then is why compare esports to physical sports instead of just clubs with passion? Seems like it at the point of a question of access to hardware. Esports, I'll just let you guys talk that one out a little bit. Esports can extend into the classroom and workspace. I guess there kind of ends up being a question of like, where does esports end and where does gaming start? In that type of that situation. Like, if you're only here to have fun and not teach the soft skills of what are acquired when you're on a competitive team, like, are you just a club at that point? And is that a gaming club, not an esports club? Because I think an important piece of the conversation of like wins don't really matter. Well, do teaching the soft skills of being on a team matter? Is that one of your goals within your program? Because yes, not every high school soccer team is going to win a state championship, but there are other goals that a school should have for when they have a soccer team, like teaching teamwork, teaching communication, teaching time management. Like, those soft skills of being on a team are an important piece of it. I was writing finding your prior, specifically fun versus potential career. What is casual? Yep. Like, is flag football not sports? Good question, Verso. That's a fair question. And I think there's quite a few directors in the space. Not quite a few. There's a couple directors in the space that are afraid. Specifically, what they say is college esports is at a point where it could become the equivalent to dodgeball on a college campus. I think that's a little extreme in my opinion, but the point is probably valid. Is like we're at a point where, like, are we going to gain the respect of an athletic program, or are we going to gain the value and respect of a, I don't know, student government? Like, they're different. They have different sets of resources. They have different priorities on campus and in different departments. Like, where are we going to end up? That's a question and a concern with a lot of directors, because someone who's the head of the student government association is not a full-time student government advisor. And there's obviously going to be a little selfish question there. Like, is being a full-time esports coach, like, really sustainable? Is that something that's going to happen long-term? But I think it is. We got media internships. Hey, there you go. Media internships at Checkpoint XP. Boom. That's a really good opportunity. If I go to P&G and I say, hey, my students are mostly STEM, have high GPAs, are you looking for talent? I can get a partnership much easier than saying I won this tournament. Yes, but you work at a massive D1 school. That's totally different. And I can get a $250,000 check. No, ain't nobody writing a $250,000 check to Aquinas College's esports program for that. Ain't no one doing that to Florida Southern yet. Sure, the University of Cincinnati, maybe. That's a massive school. You look at Ohio State. Yeah, a sponsor can put their name on Ohio State something. That's a lot more value than some of the smaller schools. Each school is going a different direction. It is, but that's also like how business works too. Is like you got to find where you have to align what your goals of an organization are. And when I look at goals, it starts with the mission statement of your institution, and then goes to like what are the goals of the overarching, the higher ups, and where do you fit into that. And then it's you insert a college or a coach or director who has his own goals. Like at Aquinas, I wanted to win stuff. My boss didn't care if we won stuff, but I inserted the winning culture and goals. And then you look at resources, like that also ties into it. It's like how much resources do you have? Like an institution who's giving full rides is going to have much different direction of where they're heading. What up? Missed the beginning. How's it going? It's going. How's everyone? Everyone is good. I was only planning to do this an hour, but maybe I'll extend it like 30 more minutes. I think this is a good conversation. Speak the truth. The model replicates to any scale, Adam. It replicates to any scale, sure. The scale is much smaller at a smaller institution, and then you start saying like how much smaller, and how much time do I have to spend to get a $1,000 check? Is it worth it when I could have been doing X instead? And do I need that $1,000 to make my program better? Because I mean, at Aquinas, I was fairly well funded. $1,000 wasn't going to make a huge difference, but Eastern Tennessee and Appalachian schools have followed my model and gotten $5,000 to $15,000 checks. It's not bad. Maybe it's worth it doing. Maybe we find out Chris's model here. This is Chris Postel or Postel. I don't know how you pronounce your last name either. But he's a director at University of Cincinnati. He's also involved in a ton of other stuff. I think realizing that esports doesn't have to be sweaty is important to colleges, to be honest. There's value in having lower level teams and just giving students opportunities. Yes, to an extent. Like I said, I think the value in collegiate esports from my perspective is the soft skills. And those soft skills are really developed in a program that's treats it with respect, past just let's meet up twice a week in solo queue or flex queue. You know, I think there's a delicate conversation and a thought process to be had there. Talent is stacked across the country. They don't want to work local. I feel like you should make this a regular conversation. Yeah, I'm thinking about doing this weekly. There's always stuff happening in college esports, so we can probably we can come up with stuff to talk about every week. I want to also have guests on. Like I said, I think David Kirk will be a good one next week. The one I went head to head with on Twitter last night. Need to talk to him. The model works now. Screaming from the rooftops, 100% more sustainable than selling your soul to sports management agencies. You'll be in my neck of the woods this weekend at the Orlando Greek Festival. Really? I will be in Orlando on Sunday for one of the CSMG invitationals. You should check it out if you have nothing on Sunday and you want to do something esports related. To an extent, you can't gain those with a... Yes, okay. All right, so Verso, we're on the same team. You can't gain those skills. Oh, yeah. Yes, you can definitely gain those skills on a silver gold team. But it's more than just showing up. KK flying back to OKC. Hey Moog, thanks for stopping by. Moog is the director at Oklahoma. Definitely a well-respected folk in the space. Safe travels back, Moog. I definitely want to have you on here as well at some point. Gonzaga is one of the best basketball programs in the country and invests in that sport. You could say they're the same for LSU in football. Yeah. English Teacher 4. Have you talked yet about the fine drama? We did. We talked a little bit about ISU. We talked a little bit about Play Versus. But if you have anything you wanted to add, yeah, I was not prepared for the drama when I dropped the news. Yeah, no, we appreciate it. It was an interesting last 48 hours, but I thought it was good. It was really good. A lot of discussions were had, a lot of growth, in my opinion. I heard D2 is where it's at. I think we're a little biased there, Wiki. I really enjoy the D2 scene coming from NAIA. Oh, Overwatch 2 was delayed. Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4 are delayed. That's exciting. No surprises, I guess, but unfortunate because I need Overwatch 2 to reignite some fire in some high school kids so I can recruit them. Ha! Finding Overwatch players for me has been a struggle. But then I talk to programs who are like, I can't find League of Legends players, but I have all these Overwatch players. I'm like, let's do a trade. I have plenty of League players who are like silver gold. I just need a couple of those Overwatch players you're talking about. Is anyone shocked? No. Man. This conversation is having while I'm typing my speech topic on the history of esports. Well, how fitting. You could do a speech topic on just collegiate esports. My wife is asking about if she should start making dinner. Oh, she's awesome. I think it's important to keep those discussions going and pressuring these companies that work with high schools and held accountable. I completely agree. All right, here's a pet peeve of mine, and I haven't called him out on Twitter yet, but Clerky had a conversation with Delane and just posted this cryptic tweet with a screenshot of him and his ended call with Delane and saying, "We had a good conversation. He heard me." And like from my perspective, I'm like, what conversation did you have? Like, how was the tone? Like, what was actually discussed? What are the changes going to be happening? Like, I hate hearing about these like backdoor discussions or like these secret conversations that happen in collegiate between leaders in the space, and then we're totally locked out. I'm like, what the heck? Let's put it on a platform like this where we're like in front of people and we can all discuss and learn from it. Or else we're all just going to be repeating the same thing all the time. Very interesting 48 hours. Best thing that came about was a few Mississippi high school esports coaches coming together and figuring out how to get a seat at the table. That is awesome to hear. Good. I'm so glad. Especially if there's a promise, but to do it in professional. Don't worry, that is half of the topic and how it is taken. Yeah. These screenshotted tweets are not productive and just add to the idea. Also put that there that Delane is a gaslighter. Like I said, I've never talked to Delane. I don't know. I've never met him. I just know what he puts out and what I hear from other people. So, Disney Esports meetup. Ooh. As soon as someone figures it out, I'll be there. Truly, people are misallocating their efforts. If I can do the stuff I've done within a year of starting work when I had near zero business experience, 100% comes down to strong mentors and freedom to do things. But I would make the argument high school organizations and other collegiate programs have more ability to do things than they might think. I agree with that. I think most college esports coaches aren't investing their time in the right in the proper things. But I also can't blame those coaches because none of us know what we're doing. None of us know what the true important things to be investing in. Should I be spending all my time raising money for the program, or should I spend my time coaching the 3 game titles we coach, and VOD reviewing and doing scouting on our opponents the next week? Like, there's a trade-off there. And then it's like, do I spend time creating relationships on campus, or do I spend time recruiting? Like, there is so many things we can spend our time on, and most coaches probably aren't doing the best they could with that. But we also don't know what the answer is. Like, we're all still learning. Sounded like Delane wanted some direct feedback from friends or would be more receptive to that compared to anything else on Twitter. Fair. You want to hear from other people, not just the Twitterverse. But when you hear so much of the same thing from so many different people, there needs to be a moment where you take a step back and say, okay, I've heard this same thing multiple times. What can I do to change? 30-second ad, I'm sorry. Hello, gamer. What's up? First, so I'm completely in. I'm a travel agent. Let's make it happen. Oh, shoot. Y'all are coming down to Florida? Let's make it happen. Disney meetup. Esports. That'd be pretty sweet, to be honest. Maybe I'll talk to Full Sail and we'll do a coaches clinic. No, I hate when people sell that type of stuff. A coaches meetup weekend, or I don't know, sharing of ideas. I think the fact your response to Clerkies with Dane is to call him out on Twitter might not make people want to have this kind of public roundtable and expect it to be productive. Your response to Clerky's conversation with Delane is to call him out on Twitter. It might not make people want to have this kind of public roundtable. That's fair. I'm not the greatest. I don't make the greatest decisions when we're talking about trying to be civil and professional when it comes to like Twitter usage, but I also know that it's a really valuable platform. If Clerky had a private conversation with Delane and express his thoughts, that's fine. But why do we all have to be um, teased that was a conversation that happened? And are we supposed to settle down because Clerky had a conversation with him? Like, no, no. Adam, we need a scuff podcast for Collegiate Esports with 15 of us talking at once. Oh yeah, that sounds sick. Yeah, we'll all scream. Okay, I'm live. What is current topic? A huge part of that is how many jobs coaches have to juggle. Yeah, don't have the time or the resources. Yeah, I'd love to see this weekly, my man. Let me know. All right, have fun, Nori. Thanks for stopping by. I'm only going to be streaming for like 17 more minutes. I'll stop at 6:30 Eastern because I know coaches got practices. I got the night off. Yeah, but I got dinner. Maybe I'll play some New World. How do you propose a solution to this? That sounds awesome. There's no solution to each universities. Yeah, that's fair. There's not one solution for. Yeah, that's fair. But man, there's just so much we all have to learn. There's so much that we all have to learn about priorities and how to do things best practice. Like, no one has discovered best practices for a lot of things in the space. And that's something that I tell new coaches who send me questions. Like, I know a coach who's been at his school for 2 years and called me up and started asking, like, hey, I think the next thing that I want to do is work on creating more opportunities for people outside of my varsity program. And I need some advice. And like my first, like, whoa, all right. First of all, here's the deal. I was only at Aquinas for 2 years. I was like, I'm right where you are. I'm thinking this is the next part of growth for Aquinas. We're all like, nobody in the space knows how the heck to do that at a great level. Like, most varsity teams have been around for maybe 2, maybe 3 years. And those college coaches are in the same boat you are. So at a certain point, like, you're the one trailblazing on X subject. Like, I'm not going to be the expert on everything. Like, I'll tell you right now, like, creating opportunities for students on campus outside of varsity is something I'm starting brand new this semester. It was not a priority at Aquinas. It wasn't happening. So I'm not the expert on that. I know there's a couple people in the space that are good at that, or semi-good. There's a couple recent graduates in colleges, or people who aren't college coaches specifically, who started programs at their own institutions before graduating. That would be really good, potentially. Yeah, everyone thinks they do. Yeah. Well, or they like give off the impression that they think they do. I don't know. No one knows what the heck they're doing. At the larger universities, I think the best course of action is supporting students and encouraging roles with the student organization. But hey, I'm biased. Yeah, we had a lot of conversations because I was interviewing at Ohio State, and I talked with K-Bot before an interview, and we talked a lot during some interviews. And their goals as an institution are totally different than a lot of other institutions. And the idea that the institution is just going to support the students' efforts is definitely one way to do it. It's not, in my opinion, the ideal solution, but it is a solution. It's going to vary depending on the resources the school has to give to esports, or is willing to give to esports. What I have seen is Ohio State's model has encouraged other bigger schools in the area to take that approach with less resources. So I've seen institutions who will tack on esports to somebody who's already on campus and say, okay, you're the director of esports and whatever you're doing. You're not getting any additional money. You're not getting scholarships, but you're expected to create a varsity program. You're like, what? I feel like there are better ways to do this. We call that fumbling the bag. I spent a large part of my life this year focusing on production. Sincerely, a salty Ohio State fan. That's fair. What's up, Dadazard? What's up? Dadazard is a Wow, streamer from Grand Rapids, but heavily involved in the high school scene at one of the local high schools there. Give him a follow if you haven't. Cool guy. Curiosity, since you're president of your org, do you have coaches both in the soft skills? Verso, I'm graduating this year and have been struggling since I got here as a freshman. Don't get me started. Steve. That dad is hard. Yeah. Yeah, I think it goes back to every institution has different set of goals, different set of expectations when it comes to esports, a different set of resources that are available to them. A lot of this comes down to bad hiring practices. Well, I feel like we could have said bad hiring practices a year or two ago, but now looking at some of the candidates for some of these jobs, I think it's becoming less of hiring practices and more of a bad candidate pool. Like, man, I don't know how many times I've heard that from some hiring manager or just like I know who applied to certain jobs, and I know people who are really qualified. They get one interview and are offered the job right there because the other candidates were just not up to par. I think we as college coaches also need to help develop the next level of talent to take our jobs to go run bigger programs. Like that's going to be on us. A lot of this comes, yeah. I'm a 16 grad, was student labor, blah, blah, blah. I would say it varies, and in fairness, I don't interact with all of our teams, but I would say a significant chunk of our team managers, even at the club level, have developed these skills and could really shine under the supervision with the support of more resources. Yeah. I mean, some of those game managers have to be developing a lot of skills that would put them in a great position to run, to be a director or a head esports coach at like a smaller institution, if not a bigger one, depending on the student. It's more uninformed hiring practices than anything, and yeah, the good ones are still working where they're at. True. I know a ton of these major schools are putting so much money into scholarships, but no money into production. That makes me angry and upset because production is priority at Aquinas, and we have no production budget. Yeah, production, I think. So there's a couple opportunities that are on the horizon in collegiate esports that have not been given love. So I think production is one massive opportunity. Programs can further develop students to have a great skill set with production. And it can add value to a program through sponsorships or just getting the word out, marketing. The other opportunity I think in collegiate esports is opportunities for students outside of their varsity programs. Creating gaming events on campus for casual gamers, because all of a sudden, instead of impacting 25 students or 30 students, whatever your varsity team is, you're now impacting potentially hundreds more. And that opportunity and the ability to message that to administration to ask for more resources is going to be extremely valuable. And that's just something that has been neglected because we're all mostly overworked and don't know what priorities to be focused on. So just keep a lookout on those. If you're a program that's been around for 2 years and you're kind of like, what do I do now? Like, look at those two things. Can I up production value? Or can I create opportunities for students not in the varsity program? I am back. Welcome back, Chris. We got about 9 more minutes here. If you guys have any further discussion, like, feel free to pop it over on Twitter. Like, keep the conversation going. If not, we'll be back next week. I'll do these weekly. I think this is fun. We'll have David Kirk next week, hopefully. I'll message him after this and see what day. I'm planning probably on Tuesdays, or yeah, I kind of like Tuesdays. Tuesdays are fine. A Tuesday, I'm leaning maybe like a 4 p.m. Eastern instead of 5 because it's dinner time. If you want to talk about low budget production with sponsorships, DM me or something. I love being paid in M&Ms and gas money. Oh God, please no. There's some really cool things happening in production. Like at Aquinas, like we didn't put money towards production. I did buy some equipment that like Doc Haskell from Boise recommended, like audio stuff, but we just empowered kids to start casting. And then we started getting, those kids got opportunities at the semi-pro level or even CRL. Like, holy cow. And that was all them. Like I gave them, I ran some streams. I made sure that things were like fairly smooth and ready to go, but that was all them. Wait, are non-varsity items on campus not a standard for programs? They are not a standard for programs because most schools who have started programs don't care about the non-varsity stuff. They just want the tuition dollars of what recruits bring in. For me, it's a standard because I report both to the athletic director and the dean of students. So that's a part of my job description is opportunities outside of varsity too. But that is not the case at most smaller institutions. Jerseys with memes or fight. Nice. Also a resource for budget production. We just built our studio and didn't break the bank. Oh, that's awesome. Verso, yeah, would be probably a good one. You earn more recruits by having non-varsity items. Yes, in the long term. Command Attack, you're working at an institution that was started and led by somebody who was looking further than 2 years down the road and was driving the vision of the school and their program. Most institutions, most programs are being, those coaches are being driven by the institution's goals and the institution's thoughts on esports, and what their preconceived notions are when it comes to varsity esports. I mean, Antor literally recruited me to EQ because of streaming and broadcasting. Yeah, I did. I knew that was where your talent was. I didn't really have Fortnite super built out or Valorant built out, like, but you're talented at casting, so that's what I did. Yeah. I think these conversations are really good to have. I think it also opens up for coaches who haven't had the opportunity to network or meet with other coaches at other institutions and find out what they're working on or their struggles are. Like, this is a great opportunity. And so is Twitter. Like, Twitter's a great opportunity. Discord, message people. Like, learning about what the struggles are at other institutions, I think, is really important. Adam Antor, teaching social media management class. No, I should not be teaching social media management. I am, gosh, no, I'm not to be looked at as, this is how I should run social media. I've burned plenty of bridges on social. It's wild listening on the college drama as a high school coach. Dude, and there's drama at every level. I think we're all trying to figure out what the heck we're supposed to be doing. We're all working under different constraints by developers, by our schools, etc. Like, it doesn't stop at high school. It's the same at the college level. There's just a little bit more money, and a little bit higher stakes. In terms of, like, I have recruiting goals to hit. I have, or expectations. I have a set budget that I can't go over. I have to, whatever. But what if you're no longer a coach? You can still talk with us, Ashley. AJ. But, yeah. I think you still bring value. Holy cow. AJ's got 3 years at Park. Served on the board of NACE, now works at NACE. Shoot, you can still talk. You can still learn stuff. Something shared trauma, sure. For sure. I gotta make sure that my league team does not have a playoff match tonight. I am 99.5% sure they don't, but now I have kids asking. Adam, serious question. Oh God, here comes a not so serious question, I'm sure, but I'll entertain it. I'm hosting a LAN in Orlando on Saturday, Sunday. I will be there on Sunday. Is it CSMG? I just want to make sure it's the same company. If it's CSMG, their regional invitational, I will be there on Sunday. Cool. Link deleted. Sorry, I might have links disabled. I can't accept it either. So on Saturday, we're hosting League of Legends World's Finals watch party with Misfits at Florida Southern. Maybe I'll drive down the afternoon of Saturday. I don't know. We'll have to see what I'm feeling that day. But Sunday, I plan to be there. I'm bringing my camera. I'll take some photos. Oh, events run by Esports Foundry. That's awesome. I also, I reached out to CSMG. We're going to plan, we have a follow-up call in a couple weeks to talk about the event, and I think they want to try to get me to join whatever they're doing. But they're doing some cool stuff. So I'm excited about that. All right, we got 3 minutes. Who's got the last quick deal that they want to talk about? Besides Overwatch 2 being delayed. Anything else? Who's got it? It was the AQ fight song Despite. Oh, well, if you redeem my points, my channel points, 500, you can pick the next song. Reese's or Kit Kats? Oh, I'm going Reese's. That's not even it. Like, Reese's is my favorite candy. Sorry. Final thoughts for this combo. I think that PlayVS is only as relevant as their next competitor. If Riot... Well, that would be so much more relevant if there was an exclusive contract for League of Legends. I will say that. I think their next competitor, if they're willing, like, to an extent, but there's this exclusivity contract that looms over everybody. And yes, somebody else could come in who's better and win that contract, but we have yet to see that. And how much do you have to put into that type of business to win that contract when PlayVS has $100 million? So, I don't know. And already has partnerships with like NFHS and all that stuff. Let's collectively build up national organization at scale so we can make them change. Northeast Ohio. Dude, you got so many events in the Midwest, dude. They just announced another one at in South Bend. Don't complain. Drive a couple hours. I'm talking about, what about Florida? What about like a Georgia? Like Oklahoma, Idaho. These are all like deserts for esports events. Don't, this dude trying to come in here saying more events in Ohio. Psh, sheesh. There's more events happening in Ohio and Indiana. All right, guys. Final thoughts. It was great having you guys here. I really appreciate the banter, the conversation. We will be doing this every week. Let's try to find a guest every week. If you want to be a guest and you want to talk about a specific topic that happens at some point, I want to keep it relevant for the most part. So I don't want to just like plan out a content calendar. But if something happens during the week that you would bring a ton of value to, hit me up. Would love to have you on. Because I don't like just talking this entire time. I think having somebody else on could bring a lot of value. Hopefully next week I'll have David Kirk from Illinois State. We can talk a little bit about Illinois State and what they're doing, what they've done. This Overwatch fiasco, we'll bring it back up. We'll dig it up again, beat a dead horse. It'll be good. But until next time, I really appreciate you guys. Follow me on Twitter, Coach Antor, if you haven't already. That's where the spiciest collegiate esports takes happen. And I really appreciate you guys. It's been really fun, and I want to keep this going. So good luck this week. If you guys are coaching, directing, playing, good luck this week in competition. Keep it going. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep making opportunities for students. Keep being a mentor for others, for the new people in the space. They need it. We need it. Keep it going. Love you guys. You guys are awesome. All right. See ya.